So when was the last time you bought a CD? What about a vinyl record? For many of us, it's been a while. The way we listen to our favorite songs has changed a lot since Steve Jobs pulled that first iPhone out of his pocket. Streaming music apps like Spotify, Pandora, and Apple Music dominate the industry now. But how is this shift affecting the artists who make the music we love? For some, like Billie Eilish, the world of streaming unlocked a fast track to stardom. For many others, it's presented an array of issues around pay, ownership, and even ideology. Yesterday, Neil Young pulled all his music off Spotify. He says he did so in response to vaccine misinformation on the podcast The Joe Rogan Experience. This podcast is by far one of the top shows online and a huge draw to Spotify. An estimated 11 million people listen to each episode. Some episodes are 3 or 4 hours long, if not longer. And Spotify accounts for nearly a third of all global streaming music subscribers. So this is not a small move for Neil Young to make. Joining us now is Ann Powers, music critic and correspondent for NPR. Ms. Powers, welcome. Good to talk to you again.
Hey, good to see you.
What do you think the impact of this decision is going to be? I mean, Spotify released a statement saying that they're sad to see him go and they'd like to have him back, but I don't think they're going to, lose a percentage of their profits because Neil Young is not on there anymore. How does this play out?
Well, that's a great question, Joshua, because it could play out in a lot of different ways, depending on how other people respond to Neil Young's action. This protest is really... it's not about, how much an artist gets paid on Spotify or, the kinds of protests that have happened or attempts to raise awareness about streaming in the past. This is a protest that's more like a boycott of a place. Like, for example, if you remember in the 80s when many musicians decided not to play in South Africa because they were supporting the anti-apartheid movement. Basically, Neil Young is treating Spotify like South Africa. He's saying, I don't want to participate in a place that has, that represents politics and things I don't believe in. Will others stand with his cause? I think we're going to have to see how that plays out.
Let's talk about the business of these streaming apps, for example. Let's say that I, had a band, Joshua Johnson and the Journalists, and my big hit song, Baby Don't Break My Deadline, is tearing up the charts. Everybody wants to hear Baby Don't Break My Deadline. It goes on Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, Pandora. How do I get paid? Walk me through that process.
Right, so you're going to get paid on Spotify through something called a pro-rata basis, which means every stream, every subscription, every bit of money that goes into Spotify is divided all in a giant pot for all the artists. So what that means is that if you are, Joshua Johnson is the equivalent of The Weeknd, and your music is streamed about 5%, say, of everything on Spotify, you're going to make a lot of money. But if you're Ann Powers and the esoteric music critics, and you have a really devoted following, of 100,000 people or something, the money you would have made selling directly to them, or even selling through a record store, or selling through, remember downloads, or a platform like Bandcamp that still lets artists sell directly to their fans, you're going to make a lot more money that way. So that's the problem that a lot of people have with these streaming services, is that it really favors what we'll have to call the 1%.
I know I'd love to talk more about this, but before I have to let you go, it seems like even as this has created problems for some artists, it's also created opportunities. Like some of them have been able to get better information on who shows up at their shows or have other podcasts or merch. And so in some ways, for some artists, it's allowed them to be entrepreneurial, but it's forced them to learn how to be entrepreneurial.
Well, this has always been true in the music industry. And frankly, artists have always been, tragically, at the bottom of the food chain within the music industry in many ways. Artists have always had to fight for their own rights, their own ability to make money, and that's what happens when you're working in corporate entertainment, I guess. I mean, independent support of your favorite artist is important. Go out and buy that T-shirt, buy the vinyl, don't go to the show necessarily, but give them $10 on their Patreon. There's lots of ways to support artists.
NPR music critic Ann Powers, who I will note is the author of one of my favorite books about music, called Good Booty, Love and Sex, Black and White, Body and Soul in American Music. And good to talk to you again. Thank you very much.
Great to see you.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.